Hello, and welcome back to the Bitter BM podcast. I'm Felicia, your Bitter BM, and here I speak about all the things that made me bitter, but transformed me into the person I am today. So, I wanted to come on here because I feel like I got some splaining to do, and I feel a little bit compelled to come on here and explain some things, particularly how I feel about my mother, because a lot of the clips that people are going to be seeing are 90% going to be related to how she treated me, how she made me feel. And that is because she shaped primarily who I am today, who I am as a mother, who I am as a daughter, who I am as a sister. My entire being was shaped by her. I will give credit as well to my grandmother and my father, but most of who I am is due to her and my experiences with her. So I want to start off this video by saying that I do love my mother. I do love my mother. We are not close. At the present time, I love her from a distance because I think that is the best option that I have. There was a point when my kids were younger, maybe I want to say maybe like 10 years ago, where she would come to my house, we would visit and stuff like that. We never had a motherly relationship. It was just like, she's my mother. I'll go visit her. Let's go visit grandma. Let's bring her some food on Christmas. If I cook, let's invite her over for dinner. But that no longer happens. And a part of that is because during COVID, she didn't want anybody at her house. And to be honest, I haven't been to her house in about 6 years. COVID happened. I called her one day. I said, we're coming to visit. She was very brash in saying, I don't want nobody over at my house. And I left it at that. I haven't been back since. She hasn't invited me, and that's where we stand with that. My feelings from my mother, as I mentioned previously, stem from my overall experience with her. And I know that I love her because she gave birth to me. And if something happened to her, of course, I would feel terrible. I would be sad, distraught. But in terms of loving her for the person she is, I'll be honest, I really don't know my parents like that. I don't know their life experiences. Both my mother and my father actually have never shared how they came into being who they are with me. So, in that sense, I don't have the ability to love her as a person for who she is. But yes, I do love her for being my mother. And in a sense, I would say it's not a love that was organic or something that came naturally to me. It's more out of obligation, like something I know that I'm supposed to do. And that might sound really harsh and terrible, but it's the truth. I was never told by her, ever, from what I can recall in all my time knowing her, that she loved me. And that, I think, played a major role in how I saw myself, aside from many other things. Not being told that you are loved by your mother, not being shown affection by your mother, not being hugged by your mother at all, even as an adult. I hug my kids all the time when they permit me to, because sometimes they don't. They're like, girl, get out my face. And I respect that. But growing up, I thought that was something important for her to show me, because I am the only girl. I have no sisters, all brothers on both sides of my parents. My dad has three sons, my mother has two sons. And I'm the only girl. So I always felt like I should be treated special because of it. And I wasn't. And that's just like maybe a fantasy I created as a child to maybe cope with the fact that I was being treated so harshly by her. I can recall saying to a friend of mine many, many years ago, we're not friends anymore, actually. And I can remember telling her that if my mother wasn't my mother, I wouldn't speak to her, because she is so, and I had a lot and still do have some of this in me too. She is very dismissive, very avoidant. she can be very closed off and harsh at times. She doesn't mince her words. I've learned or grown to be a more tactful person with my words, because words can cause harm. And it's important that you don't harm other people with your words because words are very powerful. But I said to her, I wouldn't speak to this woman if she was not my mother. And in coming full circle, just thinking about this right now, I don't speak to her. Mostly because of me coming to the realization that she caused me so much harm growing up. She caused me so much harm that led to me being in situations that I was not supposed to be in. Situations that I thought were or could have been preventable if she was a little bit more attentive, a little bit more caring, a little bit more protective of me growing up. And I resent her for that. I'll be honest. I resent her for how she treated me and not getting past her own hurt in order to protect me as a child, in order to pour into me as a young woman growing up. And as a result, teen pregnancy, high school dropout, all of that stuff happened, and a lot of other things, which I may or may not come on this channel to speak about because they're extremely sensitive. But I resent her for that. And at my big age of 40, I feel now I have more control over my life. I can decide who I want to allow into my space, who I want to communicate it with. And I've decided that I'm willing to limit the amount of access that she has to me in order to protect myself, because I don't believe that she has gotten past, her hurts. And so she doesn't have the ability to be the mother to me that I would like her to be to me, even at my big age. I wish I could call her and talk to her about my problems and, just have someone to chop it up with. We used to do that at one point in time, but over the years, we've just grown more and more distance. And a lot of that is actually based on her doing things that didn't really line up with my own values and the values that I was developing for myself. Because growing up, she didn't teach me a value system. I basically had to create my values out of thin air based on what I saw on TV, what I experienced myself, and what I would want my own girls to have, or, for what I would want them to value growing up. So didn't have many value systems, and as I seen her do certain things, I wasn't okay with it. And people might say, it's your mother, forgive her and all that. I need her to forgive herself first. I need her to forgive herself. I actually believe that she feels guilty about putting me out of the house and, what I had to experience with that. She doesn't know all of it, but she knows it wasn't peachy. She knows it wasn't roses. She knows I struggled. She knows I had a hard time, and she doesn't want to talk about it. And I would love for her to talk about it. I would be willing to go to family therapy with her. If she goes to therapy, I would hope that could help her grow a little bit, and then we could become close again. But at the present time, that communication, that door is not open. Obviously, if something happened to her, if she needs something aside from $100 every couple of months, I would do it, But as I say, she's on her own until she can no longer support herself. My mom has a very good paying job. She has a career. She doesn't need me as much, I don't think. I think she would like to have me around, but I can't be around her and not address certain things. And if I'm gonna be real about it, I believe that my mother owes me an apology. I would love for one day my mom to come and say, Shanika, that's my family name that, close relatives and other family members know me by. I would love for my mom to come one day and say to me, Shanika, I'm sorry. I know I wasn't perfect. I made a mistake. I love you, and give me a hug. How many words was that? Words I've never heard in my entire life, and I'm 40 years old. That would definitely open the door, I believe, to us getting closer and open the door to us actually having a conversation about what she did to me and me hearing her piece, me hearing her explain herself. I'll tell you something interesting. When I was younger, there used to be these commercials that came on TV about some drug, some pill, and they always used to say, do you know someone who's always sleeping all the time, who seems sad, who's always isolated? I used to see those commercials and think about my mom, because a lot of times when we were growing up, my mom was all, we had a 2-bedroom apartment. My brothers and I shared a room, and she had her own room, and she was always locked up in her room. She always seemed sad. And that drug was for depression. When I was younger, I thought my mom was depressed 100%. But back in the day, mental health and all that stuff, it wasn't really, it was a thing, but they didn't have a lot of supports for it. So in all actuality, I can believe that my mom was overwhelmed with 3 kids, not getting any support from the dads. We all have different dads. Just the typical struggle of a single mother who doesn't have it, doesn't have the career, doesn't have the money, didn't meet anyone willing to actually help her raise her kids, just a bunch of, men that were just looking to get what they wanted to get. So I do, as I'm older, I'm able to, put myself in her shoe. But it is my belief that what you cannot give your kids financially, you have to give them emotionally. And that is my biggest issue with her. She may not have been able to support us financially the way she would have liked, but she didn't support us. My brothers have to tell their own story. She didn't support me emotionally the way I needed to be supported. I had to learn everything on my own. I had to learn how to be a mom on my own. I had to learn how to cook on my own. Everything. When I was pregnant, I literally went to the library and read a book about pregnancy. She never spoke to me, never addressed me being pregnant. She never spoke to me about it, Yeah, you can be angry at your kids, but once you calm down, it's important for you to have the conversations. She never did that. And there are a lot of things. I have a lot of stories to tell, so I will do that. But like I said, I felt compelled to come on here and explain how I feel about my mother and give y'all a little bit of information or, justification behind why I feel how I feel. So I'll see y'all next time. Thanks for stopping by on the Bitter BM podcast. Ciao.